It happened so fast, no one had time to breathe. One moment, the chemistry lab buzzed with the usual chatter of teenagers. The next, a student named Jack Turner had his hand wrapped tightly around Miss Clara Benson's throat, slamming her against the wall. The glass beers rattled. Gas hissed from an open valve. Everyone froze except for Miss Harris. The black woman's eyes didn't show fear. They didn't beg for help. They locked on Jack, sharp, steady, unshaken, as if she'd stared down danger far greater than this, the kind that made his outburst look like child's play. And in the next 10 seconds, something happened that would end Jack's future, turn the school upside down, and make everyone in that room rethink who Miss Benson really was. The first rays of the morning sun slipped weakly through the tall glass windows of Westbrook High as students trudged inside, their conversations filling the hallways like background noise. To most, it was just another before Westbrook High. What none of them knew was that those rumors weren't as far-fetched as they seemed. But every classroom has one. The bully. The student who thinks he's untouchable, that rules don't apply, and that teachers are beneath him. At Westbrook, that student was Jack Turner, the son of a wealthy businessman who practically owned half the city. Jack walked the halls like he owned them, too. Tall, broad-shouldered, and always wearing a smug grin, he mocked weaker students, shoved kids into lockers, and cheated on tests without fear of consequences. Teachers tolerated him or looked the other way because they didn't want to risk crossing his father's influence. But Miss Clara Benson was different. She didn't stumble when he mocked her lessons. She didn't flinch when he raised his voice. Instead, she met him with eyes so piercing that for the first time in his life, Jack felt uneasy. And Jack Turner hated being uneasy. That uneasy feeling was why on that Thursday morning in the chemistry lab, things began to spiral out of control. The class had been busy with an experiment, the air filled with the acrid scent of chemicals. At the back, Jack leaned lazily against his workstation, arms folded across his chest, his friends snickering at his side. His smirk grew as he raised his voice so the entire class could hear. "Hey, Miss Clara Benson," he sneered. "Are you really a teacher or just playing dress-up to cover the rent?" Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Everyone knew Jack's routine: provoke, mock, humiliate until the target broke. Miss Clara Benson didn't give him the satisfaction. Without glancing in his direction, she said evenly, "Focus on your experiment, Jack. Your solution is about to overheat." The calm dismissal landed harder than any insult. Jack's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to people brushing him off. Normally, teachers stammered or gave in, but she had shut him down with a single sentence. "Don't tell me what to do," he snapped, his voice cutting through the chatter. "You're not my boss. My dad pays your salary. Have you ever seen someone so drunk on power they believed their parents' money gave them control over everyone else? What would you do if you were the one being challenged in front of a full classroom? Before we go any further, what city or country are you watching from right now?" The room went silent. A few students tried to cover their grins while others simply froze, waiting to see how Miss Clara Benson would respond. She turned slowly, her sharp eyes locking onto Jack. That stare was colder than ice, sharper than steel. He shifted, suddenly uncomfortable, but forced a grin to hide it. "You might believe your father's money controls this school," she said, her tone steady and deliberate, each word carrying weight. "But in this classroom, science and discipline rule. Sit down." Her voice carried a finality that felt immovable, like a wall Jack couldn't push through. For a brief second, his confidence faltered, his heartbeat skipping. But pride was poison, and Jack had swallowed too much of it over the years. His friends were watching. The class was watching. He couldn't back down. With a scowl, he slammed his notebook shut and stood. "Or what?" he demanded, stepping closer. "What are you going to do if I don't sit down?" Her voice didn't waver, didn't rise. But there was a dangerous edge in it, something forged in fire and experience that made several students straighten unconsciously in their seats. Jack, blinded by arrogance, mistook her composure for weakness. His temper flared, and in a reckless burst of defiance, he crossed a line no student should ever think of crossing. He lunged forward, grabbed Miss Clara Benson by the throat, and slammed her hard against the counter. A chorus of gasps filled the room. Chairs screeched against the floor as students stood in shock. A few fumbled for their phones, but for that single heartbeat, time itself seemed frozen. Jack's hand pressed against her neck, his face twisted in smug triumph. "What now?" "Uh-huh," he spat, his grip tightening. "What are you going to do now?" But then something shifted. Miss Clara Benson's eyes didn't widen in fear, they narrowed. In that instant, the facade of the quiet black teacher dissolved, and what stood before them was something far more formidable. Years of training, discipline, and combat buried beneath her calm surface surged to life. Her hands snapped upward like lightning, seizing Jack's wrist in a grip of iron. His smirk faltered, unease flashing across his face. Before he could react, her other hand struck his elbow, bending it in a direction nature never intended. A strangled cry tore from his throat as the pain shot through him, his hold instantly weakening. In one swift motion, Chet twisted free, spun behind him, and locked his arm tightly behind his back. Jack's body slammed against the counter with a resounding thud that echoed through the lab like thunder. The room froze, every student wide-eyed, their mouths hanging open in disbelief. Miss Clara Benson hadn't simply defended herself. She had moved with a precision and force that no ordinary teacher could have possessed. The way she held him down spoke of training and experience none of them could fathom. Leaning close, her voice dropped to a deadly whisper that carried across the silence. "You don't know who you're dealing with," Jack thrashed. But the harder he fought, the tighter her hold became. His friends stayed rooted in their spots, fear etched on their faces. Nobody dared move. For the first time in his life, Jack Turner wasn't the one in control. He was prey, caught in the grip of a predator he hadn't even seen coming. Apologize. The single word cracked through the air like a whip. Miss Clara Benson's tone was low but carried absolute authority. Jack groaned, squirming under her grip. But the pressure on his arm only grew tighter. "Say it," she ordered again, her voice edged with steel. The boy, who had spent years terrorizing classmates and laughing in the faces of teachers, was trembling now, sweat rolling down his temple. His arrogance had been stripped away in seconds. "I'm sorry," he stammered, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry." Only then did Miss Clara Benson release him. With a shove, she pushed him forward. Jack stumbled, clutching his arm, Hyson's confident face pale and humiliated. The classroom stayed silent. No one dared laugh. No one even dared whisper. Every eye was fixed on her. The black woman who had stood against Jack Turner and dismantled him with terrifying precision. Miss Clara Benson adjusted the cuffs of her blouse calmly, standing tall once more, her expression controlled. But in her eyes, something darker stirred. A storm hinting at a past none of them could comprehend. She looked at the stunned students and said simply, "Class dismissed." At first, nobody moved. Then slowly, one by one, students gathered their books and slipped out of the room, their glances darting nervously between Jack, still nursing his arm, and Miss Clara Benson, who stood like a soldier returning to rest. That day, whispers spread through Westbrook High like wildfire. The teacher wasn't just a teacher. She was something else, something dangerous. Jack Turner, the untouchable bully, had been broken in front of everyone. And it hadn't taken empty threats or begging. It had taken skill, precision, and presence that could not be ignored. Deep inside, Jack knew his life had just changed in a way he could never undo. His arrogance, his shield of power, had been shattered by the one person he underestimated. Because Miss Clara Benson's past wasn't a rumor at all. It was real. And that reality had just crushed him in front of the entire class. Moments like this remind us money can buy influence, but it can't buy true respect. Respect isn't inherited and it isn't bought. It's earned. Wealth can silence some people. It can even bend a few rules, but it can't protect you forever. Eventually, everyone meets someone who can't be bought, and that's when the truth comes out. If you've ever seen someone like that finally get humbled, you know it's a lesson they never forget. Like this video and subscribe to Rahi Trove for stories that prove some lessons can only be learned the hard.